This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson. Yes, hello. Welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show. This is the show. This is the show where we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in the world, happenings in politics, in technology, the environment, everything that we interact with or hear about throughout our day and week, and we take a look at it from the higher perspective. My name is Harry Wilkinson, and I've been doing this show for, oh my goodness, we're going on 6 years now, and it's something that brings a lot of help to me. That's why I do it. It's a way of reminding myself about truth. Because from my perspective, when we look at these things that appear to be in the outer world, that appear to be happening around us, what we are really looking at is what we are creating from within ourselves. And with that kind of knowledge, you can go in and take a deeper look at things that might be affecting you. Maybe pushing your buttons. Things that make you upset, or things that make you feel happy or proud. And we can take a deeper look at those. I come from a metaphysical point of view, so my perspective is that we all have a higher self, which is connected. It's something that I refer to as divine mind. It's what many religions would call God, but it's not a man with a beard on a throne somewhere. It is basically us at our highest level, and we are creating it all, every last bit of it. So when we see these things happening in the world, and they bother us because they appear to be happening outside of us and beyond our control, it's important to remember that we actually are creating this, and what we are seeing are illusions. Very, very, very good illusions, but illusions that are created to elicit experiences that, from the perspective of the highest part of ourselves, from our divine mind, we do not experience. Designed to some of these experiences, I think of them as like holographic or virtual reality experiences, and they're designed to create a feeling of fear, or a feeling of loss, or a feeling of jubilance, or a feeling of anger, or a feeling of justification. All of these things are illusory experiences that we create to have that experience, and ultimately take our energy back from it and reconnect with the highest part of ourselves to remember the truth of who and what we are. That this is not who and what we are. And I liken it to a virtual reality game, in that, in a game, there are certain sets of rules that you play by. There's certain strengths and weaknesses that your character or avatar in the game may have. This is not the totality of you, right? It's just the character or avatar or game piece that you happen to be working through, using. And so in playing the game, you acknowledge the rules, and you acknowledge the strengths and weaknesses of your character, and you play that way. But again, it's not the truth or the totality of who and what you are. It's simply a slight manifestation, a smaller, more flawed version of you. And why would we do this, you ask? Why do we do this, you ask? Well, why do you play games? Why do you play video games on the computer? Or why do you engage in landscapes and situations that aren't real or the truth of who you are or have anything to do with who you are? You do it to have experiences that give you a little bit of thrill, too. So, when we take that step back and we look at the world out around us in this sort of way, that we are empowering whatever is around us, and there's energy for us to connect with and take back. Well, meditation is an important part of that process. In that meditation, you feel what you're feeling. From a very mindful meditation perspective, you feel exactly what you're feeling without judgment, and you let it build and build and build. And then you remember or realize that this is a creation, a very, very complex and detailed creation, but a creation all the same. And that you, on a higher level, are involved in creating it. And then you can begin to even appreciate the intricacy of the illusion, and at the same time begin to take energy back from this situation with no intent to change it, with no attempt to criticize it, but with pure acceptance and understanding of what it is, and that it does not represent the truth of who you are, but it's something you created for certain purposes. And this, for me, as I mentioned many times, at the beginning of the show, many spiritual types who feel overwhelmed or distressed by the news media that we are bombarded with these days in ever-increasing forms, through our new media, through our social media, through cell phones and 24-hour news networks, all of that. And it can feel very stressful. That's why I think of it and I frame it as a wellness issue, because it truly is. When you are exposed to a toxic environment, you need to find ways to build up an immunity to that, so that you can interact with that environment without succumbing to that environment. And that works not just for, the body, but also works for the mind, and it also works for the spirit. And an effective way of doing that is this approach that I'm telling you about now. Interacting with these things, recognizing the truth of them, and then sort of setting them free in a way. And certainly, as far as the news is concerned, this has been a week where I know I've had to call upon those sorts of approaches. And this is not to say, I'm not trying to say that it's easy. It isn't. And even I, who've been doing it a while, still have moments when it is very difficult. And this week was one of those weeks. We had real evidence of what we can safely call the shadow of ourselves in some very extremist and disturbing behavior. We've had, over the past few days, of course, probably most prominent in everyone's mind right now is this mass shooting at the Pittsburgh synagogue that has left an awful lot of people dead and was perpetrated by a highly angry, anti-Semitic person who felt it was his duty to do something like this. And as horrifying as that is, and as horrifying as that sounds, it's an important point to understand that these people who do these things, which we feel are heinous, are doing them not to be heinous. They're doing them because they believe it's what they need to do. They believe it's what needs to be done. That's a difficult step to take, but it's a first step in kind of understanding what's going on here. So we've had that incident. Before that, we had the killings of 2 African Americans in a grocery store outside Louisville, Kentucky. And we've had a series of pipe bombs mailed to people such as the Clintons and the Obamas and George Soros. People who are not just Democrats, not just progressives, but they are people who are actively folks that the President Trump has talked about in disparaging ways, that Fox News has talked about in disparaging ways. There's also a ginning up of a lot of fear about a caravan of Central American migrants on their way to the United States. So what is happening is a shadow is emerging, coming to the fore. And you know the saying, the brighter the light, the deeper the shadow. And that, I believe, is what's happening here. These forces that have been relegated to, the fringes, if you will,